Hello and welcome to Neat Games. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to build an HP champion. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is look at the skill kit, as always, whenever you're building a champion. Now, Painkeeper is a little bit of a unique champion, and this is why it's so important to make sure you read the skill kit. So as we can see, if we click on his skills, his A1, even though he's an HP champion, is actually based off of defense and attack. What? His A2 is based off of HP. And if you read the skill itself, it says attacks all enemies, then he heals this champion by 15% of this champion's max HP. And when you read the ascended version of the skill, it heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP. And then his A3, or her A3, is decreases the cooldown of all skills by 1 turn. An excellent skill. Painkeeper is used in a lot of different builds, like Clan Boss Unkillable teams, the Budget Unkillable, and a very good champion in the Dark Elf Faction Wars because, number 1, she provides an AoE heal, and number 2, she's decreasing the cooldowns of champions like Coldheart and Visix and Kale, or whoever it is that you're using, Saris if you're lucky enough to get her, etc. So, when I read an HP-based champion's skill kit, and they have something like this skill, this tells me my goal for this champion is to build her with as high HP as possible. So how are we going to do that? With the same logic that I always give you. Number 1, we start with speed boots. And we're going to go with substat HP. And we're going to look at 6-star or 5-star pieces. This is it. This is the piece. Simple as that. We're going to roll it up to 12. I'm sorry for not having RSL helper on. I'm a bad person. Maybe I won't roll it up entirely, but in a perfect world, this is going to roll on HP percentage because that'll boost up the HP. If this doesn't work, then we can actually slow down and reevaluate. Because this is a 5-star piece, that's a speed boot, I don't mind rolling it to 12. I'm going to have a lot of champions that need 5-star speed boots for faction wars and stuff like that, so I'm very okay rolling this to 12, even though it didn't land exactly where I wanted it to. Ideally, it would land on HP percentage here because it still then would be an okay boot for Painkeeper because the primary focus here, as we discussed, is HP. If it actually rolls, that I don't know. Let us be patient. There it goes. And it rolled on defense. Story of my life. Okay? So this is, for example, one boot that could be okay for her. Another way we can do this is if we look for a boot, for example, like this one. So this is a resilience boot, which means that if I get a 2 artifact piece, it's actually going to bump my HP up by 10%. So let's roll this to 12, see if we get lucky, and if that new bonus substat that shows itself at 12 is actually a HP percentage, or even a flat stat HP. And then we'll continue looking at the build options and see where we end up. Now, for sure, the next 2 pieces that I'm going to apply are going to be the chest and the glove. And I'm going to go with my highest star HP percentage piece. Not flat stat, not attack percentage or crit rate or crit damage, because that's not what Painkeeper's job is. Painkeeper's job is to go often so that we can go through her skill set and to make sure that she has as high HP as possible and some defense for survivability so that she can heal everybody up and make sure that she's doing her job. That's literally how I look at her. If I can get her in Relentless, that's another strategy and not the worst idea. But the real goal here is most likely to try and see what we can do with an HP-based focus with some speed. So as we can see here, if I put this boot on, the HP is actually going to go down because the other one had flat stat HP roll. So before I try this on, we're going to see the rest of our pieces. For example, just want to make sure I didn't miss something. Okay. So for example, do I have anything in the resilience in these pieces? I do. And do any of them have HP percentage? I do. So this piece most likely, okay, so we're going to show you, if I put this piece on now, this is my stat line. But now we're going to go back to the speed boots that we were just looking at. Okay, so still, the defense, the HP is actually going to go down a couple hundred points. But the defense is going to go up a little bit. So, we don't know. It's not the worst option by any means, but as you can see, this is why I talk about the importance of substats and not forcing stats. Like, I thought in my head, by putting this boot on, because of the extra 10% HP, it would automatically make it better. But because Painkeeper is only level 35, her base stat is much lower than it normally would be if she was 50 or 60. So that's why the game can be tricky. It can trick you a little bit. The more value, the HP percentage bonuses and the primary stat bonuses give you more value the higher the level, higher ascension that your champions are, because their base stats increase with that game. Okay? We're going to continue going through the rest of the pieces, and we're going to see. So the most important thing here for these two pieces is HP percentage, ideally 6-star. Okay, so we actually have this piece right here. So let me just quickly open up RSL Helper so that it speeds up the rolling process, because this is painful for everybody, including myself. Just give me a second here while it goes. I'm going to close my other game so it doesn't cause problems. And now that RSL Helper is open-ish, kind of, almost. I apologize for this. Come on. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. Ooh, RSL Helper is struggling. So we're going to keep on rolling while we wait for it to open. Let's try that again. I'm not watching how it rolls, so I'm hoping it rolls well. I don't know. So accuracy is not what we were looking for on this. Ideally, we would have loved speed. But regardless, this is definitely going to be a good piece that's going to get usage on my account for a long time. Maybe eventually it'll go on somebody else, but we'll see. There's 11. And let's see, 12, where it goes. Nobody knows. Hopefully speed or accuracy or crit rate. Basically anything but defense is what I'm looking for. If you know how I roll. Okay, good. Okay, so this looks like it could be a very solid piece for her. Now we're going to look at the chest and HP percentage. We don't have anything in 6-star, so now we look at 5-star. So for example, this is a decent piece because it has a roll on speed, it has a roll on defense. Let's see if anything else has something better. So this one could be okay because it's in the speed subset. So this is what I mean by prioritizing the stars over everything else. So we're looking at HP percentage and a 6-star. That's where we're starting. There's nothing. So now we look at 5-star. Now we have different options. Do we care about all of these sets? Yes and no. Some of them might be valuable, some of them might not. So for example, if we can get her in Relentless, it could be very valuable if we're not sacrificing the other pieces. So let's take this to 12 because again, this looks like it's a good piece that's going to get usage on my account. Thank you, RSL Helper. And we got speed here, so let's throw this on, and then we're going to roll up any other ones that also might be okay. So in my opinion, I want something with speed. So the only other options would be these two. Now, I'm using her for a very specific job in Arena. So I don't really want to take this piece off of her unless I can find a different piece for her that will allow her to stay in tune for Arena, as we showed at the end of the last video. Okay, so I rolled it to 12 to see if it was going to triple hit speed. This one, it's actually bringing my speed down, so it doesn't really seem like it would make sense for me to switch it to this. The only other one I would consider would be this one, because it gets me in a speed set, and maybe my overall speed will actually go up if I compare it with another speed set where I have HP percentage in the build. We're going to take this to 12 because, again, most likely this is a piece that will see usage on my account for a while, because it's a 5-star HP chest. So right now, if I was just to put this on by itself, then obviously it's going to drop my speed. But if I was to pair it with another piece, then maybe not. So again, now keep in mind, for my account, it's going to be a lot easier for me to find specific pieces, specifically Relentless, because I have farmed a ton of the tournaments. So when I'm looking for a 6-star even, with the substat of HP percentage, I'm going to find it, because this is what I've been farming. On your accounts, it may not be possible to find this in Relentless. That's why I'm trying to show you how you use the overall logic of how you would look for pieces. So you start with the highest star pieces, and you roll them, and you hope that you get at least a double on HP percentage. So for example, I mean, really, ideally, I'd love HP percentage and speed. So maybe that's where we're going to start. Now, as we can see, I have these two pieces that are in relentless. This one already has a roll on HP percentage, right? This one has the opportunity roll on speed percentage. So most likely, I'm going to build my painkeeper in relentless. But that's because I've been farming a ton of tournaments and I have a ton of options in relentless, and these are my higher star gears. If you don't have that same equivalency, then you just go through this same process, but without using the relentless pieces. You just find your highest star gear with that substat. So for example, I'm able to keep her in relentless. All of this gear is level 12, and I'm at 174 speed. Boots are not even at 16, so that means the speed's going to go up even higher. But I did kind of force this piece because I was thinking, hey, this is resilience. I have resilience boots. Maybe it will give me that extra value. And realistically, it would if this was a higher level champion. But I still want to show you the logic. If let's say I go to the shield, and again, I'm looking for HP percentage and in a perfect world speed. So again, relentless, LOL. Let's take away speed. Let's look at this piece. There, boom. Okay, double HP, 17% roll. So this piece at level 8 versus the other piece that we were looking at, which was a 5-star and had HP percentage in resilience, even though this one is already rolled to 12, that's why we're getting that bonus of defense, because the flat stat increases as you level it. The primary stat increases as you level it. But this piece, because it's 6-star and it double rolled on the HP percentage, it's causing my HP to be higher. So that's why I'm talking about how this build with a random boot and a random shield that just rolled better is better than forcing them in specifically a set. Now, sometimes the set makes sense. Speed. Sometimes the set makes sense. Like if I got lucky and if this had HP percentage in the substat, right, then it would be a better option. But we can see here 23,000 HP with these two pieces versus if I just look at 5-star, HP percentage here, the substat speed, this one, and this one, 6-star, right? It's now closer to 24,000. So this is going to be my build for my painkeeper because this makes the most sense. I get a decent amount of speed. I'm pumping that HP, which is the most important thing. And there's a relentless procs, which will give her more value on potentially doing the skills that we want her to go through, which is the heal. And the main one is the decreasing skill cooldowns on everybody else. I hope this gave you some insight into how to build specific champions. And I wanted to use Painkeeper as an example for the HP option because she literally has a skill where it says it's based off of this champion's max HP. Now, is 23,000 HP a lot? No, it's not. But as I level her up, as I ascend her, as I 16 this gear, that number is going to go up and up and up. Now, when it comes to the ring, we're just going to use logic. What is the ideal ring for our Painkeeper? It would be an HP flat stat in the primary, because we can have flat stats of HP, attack, and defense, and the substat would ideally be HP percentage. Does this exist? It does not. So then we can do the opposite, where we can look for a defense with a substat of HP percentage. Does that exist? This one does, with a triple flat stat roll of defense. So honestly, this is probably a better roll for a better ring for Painkeeper, and I can probably find a better ring for Kale. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I can. So let's look, for example, at my rings. This ring is defense with defense roll and some HP, HP with defense and attack. So this ring actually looks really good for me for Kale. So I'm going to go ahead and equip this on Painkeeper. And then I'm going to go to Kale, and I'm going to take a ring that has a substat of ideally either HP, attack, and defense percentage. But this is greedy because this would only apply for an epic. So I'm just going to take one away. This missed one of the rolls. It landed flat stat. So I think this is actually a really good ring because it's going to give him the base HP, which we know we like for our nukers. We want that survivability. And then it's going to give him substat rolls of other things that it's going to help him. We're going to take this to 12. Now there's no real bad roll here. Would I like double attack? Sure. Would I like double defense? Sure. Would I like 1-on-1? Sure. Don't really care. Would be great if the third stat here is HP percentage. Then it'd be a really solid ring. Beautiful. Ask and you shall receive. So this is actually a great ring for Kay. And this is the process of how we gear our champions. You have to think a little bit deeper than just, oh, I want him in a lifesteal set, so I just put him in lifesteal. Sometimes that works for specific champions, like Kale at the beginning of the game when he's your campaign farmer. And I'll probably put him back in lifesteal now that I've hit my golden arena. But some champions, it really doesn't matter. You just want them doing their job. And that's why we're going to talk about Lysandra in the next video. See ya. Thanks for watching.